Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Airsoft Al. Welcome to the first video of World War II month, where we're cashing in on the fact that Call of Duty World War II came out, and we're cashing in on some of the guns that you might find in the game. Now I know you're seeing the hat, but honestly, it's a little bit uncomfortable, so let's go ahead and take off the hat here. Now, my last experience with Call of Duty in the World War II setting was World at War. And one of my favorite guns, besides of course the Luger, to use, was in fact the Walther P38. I know you're seeing this. I know you're seeing this. You're probably expecting me to rage like no tomorrow. But I'm not. Because in reality, this is actually not a bad gun. It really isn't. But we're going to get into that in a bit. Now, I know you're expecting a big intro, big extravaganza, things like that. I'm sorry to say, guys, not this month. I had way too much time. There wasn't enough time to actually do it, and sad to say, these came in a little late, so we're trying our best to catch up and get on the ball. So, the box itself is actually alright. It's trying to be cool, but sadly, the background imaging is not very good. The World War II setting behind the gun would have been better, but really this is not all that good. Now, the back of the gun, the back of the box itself is actually all right. They do explain how the BBs go in, how to load the magazine, how to actually shoot the gun, how to rack it, all that good jazz. But really, this is just a if you're stupid type deal. My next big complaint about it has to be it being called the G21. They could have called it the G38, because it would have been at least close to the P38, to the Walther P38. But, of course not. Opening the box itself, you get a yellow slip, which I guess is your warning thing, saying, hey, you know, you're not completely fired. You get a thing of BBs, but don't use them. You get a metal magazine, which is actually really interesting. No, it's not preloaded as you get it. I actually loaded it. It only holds 12 rounds. I'll get to that in a second. And then, of course, we have the gun itself. The Walther P38 itself is actually not that bad. It's actually rather good, which is a first. I love the actual plastic grips, which you can actually put on other Walther P38s if you want. And the racking is actually okay. It's not bad to say. The barrel itself is actually polymer, except for the rear, as well as the rest right here. This is in fact an open bolt style Springer, which I'm okay with. Sadly, no slide lock. I wish there was a slide lock. Now, the thing about it is that it's actually okay on the actual zinc, which, for those of you who don't know what zinc is, go look it up on Google. The trigger itself is plastic, the actual body is zinc, the slide is zinc, and the only polymer is really the barrel, the trigger, and the grips. And, of course, the little feed lip on the actual of the 12-round magazine. Oh, and the magazine release, of course. Now, there is a kicker, though. If you load in 13 rounds, it will cause the magazine to actually come out of this, which, by the way, that is an actual real problem. While I am trying my best to... Nope, there it goes. You can actually... You don't even have to press on this. You can just straight pull down on the actual magazine to actually cause it to fully release, which is a bit of an issue in my opinion. I wish that wasn't the case. But granted, this is a UKarms gun. I can't be mad at it. The magazine's alright, and the thing is, this can be modded. This also can be modded. That is something I want to talk about. This can be modded, and it's actually rather okay. I mean, the stock FPS was alright. It was around the low 200s, about 201, 202. But when I put the double spring mod in this thing, when I put the double spring mod in it, it's shooting about 210 to 11 to 212 with a .2. And that's something I was actually surprised at. Now, the actual in-game version of this, well, the one I'm used to, which is, of course, World at War, was pretty accurate, pretty good, and, in all honesty, really nice. The actual real steel variant of this served the Reichsmark in 1938, which I'm giving you a summarized version. If you want a full history of this thing, go watch a video on the Walther P38. I'm not gonna do that detail on the Springer. I'm gonna give you a summarized version. Basically,
Into the 50s, 60s type deal. However, the gun did get rewrite in movies, video games, and even novels. While not as famous as the P08 Luger or even the Luger after that, it's still a somewhat iconic gun to the Reichsmark.
here and there, but we're not going to talk about that unless I get a gas blowback version of it. And even then, I will still somewhat summarize it, but I will give you at least some more detail. But the Springer itself, really not that much. I mean, I do have a lot of complaints. Believe me, I got complaints. My biggest complaint has to be the hammer here. Yes, I know it's UKarms, but to another company that's making a Springer Walther P38, at least make the hammer lock back. Give us some form, give us a slide safety, or at least some form of safety down here, some form of safety. I am happy that they did include a lanyard loop here, so you could actually, if you had a P38 holster, you could actually have that lanyard loop on it and be able to take it and be able to do that with it. But even then, I wouldn't go that far, unless it was the gas blowback version. This version, on the other hand, is not that bad. I'm okay with it. The magazine is a plus. I do like metal Springer mags because they're a little bit more durable and they're not going to break on you unless they're really good polymer magazines. I'm a little bit disappointed, though, in some of the things about this, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's go ahead and go to the range and see how she does on the range test. Here we are, about roughly 60 or so feet away. This is about roughly, supposedly, the max distance for this gun. Now, of course, the Walther P38 was very well known for actually being very concealable in coat pockets, such as I've done here. Now, I'm going to be loading her up, and yes, I know I'm wearing a Uchanka hat, or Uchanka, or however you want to pronounce it. We're going to be taking some pot shots at the barn. Now, the reason I shoot at the barn, and this is something I've been getting a lot of questions about, why am I shooting at the barn, not a target? Well, this is more or less a distance test. We're seeing if it will hit the barn at a certain amount of distance, and seeing what the effective distance is. So let's see, at 60 feet, if this is an effective distance. Lining her up. Well, I'm going to aim for the metal part. Barely. It barely hit it. So 60 feet, definitely not an effective distance. So, but then again, this is a handgun. You're not exactly going to be taking pot shots at it. We have 10 rounds left. So I'm going to be basically taking the stance and shooting at it and really kind of talking about it, because really that's what I'm good at. So let's go ahead and get a little closer so we can get a precise groupings on it. Here we are, roughly 50 feet now. Let's see if we can get a... Ah, shit. And there's a first malfunction. Because of how it's designed, because of how it is, okay, so there is a round in there. It chambered a round. Problem was, well, the gloves, it's definitely harder to grip onto the gun. Hit. Hit. Miss. So there is definitely inconsistencies with it. One of the biggest ones I have to say has to be, well, not the magazine. The magazine's alright, but it's actually the gun itself. Not only that, but it is actually, I keep wanting to do, you're probably wondering why am I doing this? Well, I owned a Walther before. I actually owned a Walther PPK. Or, yeah, PPK. And I would always raise my thumb up because when you're putting in the magazine, and there goes a bombing raid. I guess there's I guess someone called it a kill streak. I don't know. Just... Okay. Anyway, with the air raid going off, the reason I'm doing this is because if you have your pinky near where the mag well is, you will pinch your pinky. Well, thankfully enough, this is not the case with this one. With the Walther PPK, on the other hand, and smaller gripped area handguns, where the magazine goes in like that, yes, you can actually do it. This even is the case for some pistols where the mag release is up here and not down here, but either way. So, let me go ahead and... The proper way to shoot the handgun is to do it like this, and then like this. Have your arm completely extended out. And that went completely over the barn. It went completely over the barn. That's... Okay. And here we go. Hit. many rounds do we have left? 1 round left. Okay. And there is a bigger issue here. Another issue. When you're loading in the magazine, there is this little cutout here. I recommend you actually dribble it out a little bit more so that way the follower can go in just a little there. However, what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to angle it in like an AK. You're supposed to angle it in like this, then slap it in. However, for those who aren't fluent in magazine etiquette, what they'll do is they'll just jam it in there not knowing that you're supposed to angle it in like that. Just thought I'd let you know. Actually, let me go ahead and try it with the left hand, because, well, that's actually not bad with the left hand. Like, okay, there's some grooves right here that your thumb would go through, but for your index finger, that's actually not bad. It really isn't that bad at all. But let's see how it does for a left-handed shooter, if you are a southpaw. And for those of you who don't know, southpaw is basically left-handed. So let's see how it does for left-handed. I have to aim with my right eye because I am right dominant. Shaking a little bit because I'm not used to shooting a pistol with the left hand. Here we go. And it hit. The consistency of targets was actually all over the place because the sights themselves, non-adjustable of course, while good at what they're supposed to be, it's definitely all over the place when you're actually shooting, and the wind's consistency like this. But with all that said, let's get back to the studio and I will give my final verdict on this pistol. With everything said, with everything done, there's a lot that can be done, actually. I will admit, there's a lot that can be done to this handgun, especially a Springer version of the very iconic Walther P38. And believe me, there are other Springer variants of the Walther P38, and UKarms have actually completely replicated other handguns of that era, and I would recommend you don't. I'd recommend if you're going to get some World War II era-ish Springer pistols, go with AGM, go with KWC, go with another company outside of UKarms. But for this one, if you really, really are diehard and wanting a Walther P38, but you don't want to break your wallet, this is okay. It's an okay gun. But you're not wanting recommendations. No, no, no. The reason you're here is because the final verdict. The final verdict on the Walther P38, or the UKarms G21, is no more, no less, than a 6 out of 10. It's slightly above average, and is definitely above the rest. It would have got a 5 out of 10, but with the fact that it can take a double spring mod, and there is modding possibility with it, and it is good stock, and it's somewhat okay stock, that levels it up to 6 out of 10. And definitely worth, well, it's definitely something you should definitely put under your kid's Christmas tree if they like World War II. And they want a handgun from their favorite video game, Call of Duty World War II. Thank you guys for watching. As always, I've been Airsoft Al, and I will see all you lovely people in the next video. Until next time.